We'll talk about that and more fun International Space Station facts as I sketch this little Death Star. Let's just turn the page and get started. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 in the morning on a Sunday morning. Is it Sunday morning already? On Sunday mornings, I like to do a little thing where I pull a toy from the toy box, a random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier, if you will, and I draw it and I talk about it. And today's random object from the Random Object Randomogrifier is the International Space Station. We've got Miss Ivy in the chat. Good morning, Miss Ivy. Got my mom and my dad in the chat. Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Thank you.
My mom is also on the phone with me. She monitors the chat because I am not skilled enough to read the chat and do art and talk at the same time. It's crazy. My brain just doesn't do all that stuff. And so she does the things my brain doesn't do. First, I'd like to point out that my International Space Station here is a toy, and it is a little warped. It's not the only thing warped here, but it is a little warped. And I want to straighten it out. My sensibilities say that's not how this thing would look, but the point of the exercise is to get used to drawing what I see, and what I see is warped. We actually do this every day at 5:30 in the morning Texas time, not just on Sundays. So you may want to set your notification bell so you don't miss any of them.
There is Diablo Girl, Rick, Pamela.
Well, hello, Diablo Girl, Rick, and Pamela. It's also flat. It's laying flat on a table, and so it's kind of hard to give it the right dimensions when it's laying flat on a table. But I couldn't really stand it up any way that would make sense. It doesn't have feet. And it's floating in space. It's supposed to be floating in space. This is the brightest object in the night sky right now. Because of its proximity, it reflects the sun's light at us, and it's very, very bright, brighter even than Venus. It moves across the night sky in about 5 minutes because it's orbiting the Earth 90. It orbits the Earth about every 90 minutes. So it takes about 5 minutes to go across the sky. And if you're wondering if it's a star or whatever, it doesn't blink, so you know it's not a plane. If you see a bright star moving across the sky rapidly and it doesn't blink, then it's the space station. It took them 13 years to build it. I believe they started. I should have written down when they started building it. I want to say 2011, but I don't think that's right. I think it was commissioned in 2011. But they're going to decommission it and crash it in 2030. And it always shocks me. I remember when Skylab crashed back in the 80s. I think it was 1980 when Skylab crashed. Either 1980 or 79. I remember when Skylab crashed, and I was a kid and I couldn't understand why they crashed it and didn't try to land it. And, I understand now they don't have any kind of landing operation for it. There's no fuel tanks. There's no landing gear. It was designed to fly for as long as it flew, and then at the end of its life cycle, it just crash out. But
interesting information this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
And I want to know if you're taking me for an apple fritter. You both are recovering from some kind of
Yeah, I've been sick for the last few days. I came home Friday with an illness, and everybody at my mom's house is old, and so
nice.
we have a policy that we don't take illnesses to each other's house. It takes longer to recover from an illness when you're old.
Yeah, not getting even one down.
Especially not you.
Exactly.
The space station is about the size of a football field, an American football field. 356 feet end to end. And it's that's about four blue whales. Because anything but metric. What I like about this model is it has greeblies. So many of the other models from NASA, they don't put the greeblies on it. Greeblies, if you're not a regular viewer of the show, the greeblies are what the Star Wars people called the little switches and boxes and stuff that they put on the outside of the spaceships to make it look like they're functioning access panels to the electronics and fuel. Even though they don't really serve a purpose in Star Wars.
It says, yeah, but how many bananas?
So it's 8 inches per banana, right? So every 3 bananas is 2 feet. 356 divided by 2 is 150, 175, 178.
28.
178 times 3. 534 bananas.
A lot.
Your bananas. Did we do anything but metric here? Dun, 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 dun. It was, like I said, it was built in orbit. They had to build it in orbit. First off, it's the International Space Station, which means certain different countries did different things. I believe it was primarily Russia and the United States built this one. The Russian part is showing signs of wear and tear because it is the oldest part. And the American part, the part from the United States, is wearing out also. It doesn't show. It didn't have the visible signs of wear. that I can tell from what I read, but it has other signs of wear, like parts have ceased functioning. And if I were on an international space station, I could handle a little wear and tear, a little tarnish, a whole lot better than I could handle a non-functioning respiration system. But they're going to crash it soon. It's like I said, it's set to crash back into the South Pacific in 2030. They've picked a place that's supposed to be far away from any human habitation and far away from any shipping lanes. And again, I think it's kind of sad that they can't try to land it. I'm sure that all the future ones they're going to try and land, especially after the advancements of SpaceX and what's Bezos' company's name? Bezos has a launch company too, like Musk, and I can't think of the name of that one. But with all the advancements those two companies have made on reusable rockets and reusable pieces.
Rick wants to know if it had any breaches.
Any breaches? I'm sure that everybody wears breaches. Not Amazon. Not Amazon. It's like Spaceballs or something. I can't think of the name of it.
Blue Origin.
Blue Origin. I think that's right. Yeah, because Blue Origin is doing the orbital reef, one of the replacement systems, and I'm sure they'll do it so that they can recover the parts. That's one of the things about private industry. Private industry wants to. They care about the expense. That's one of the main differences I can tell between private industry and the government. The government doesn't care about the waste. The government cares about the government cares about the mission. It doesn't care about the expense or the waste. But the private industry cares about the profitability, and the profitability covers the recoverability. And when everybody said, "Hey, why are they throwing these rockets away?" when they were done, the government said, "Well, we don't really need them anymore. We've got billions of dollars. We can build more." I don't believe they've had any hull breaches yet. I think that's mostly in the movies. I really, honestly, I don't know. I didn't look up hull breaches. I don't know anything about any hull breaches. For all I know, that's where they're hosting the aliens. If you've been watching the news lately, we're finding out that they've got aliens that they're harboring. Martians showing up to steal our jobs and our women. That wouldn't shock me, though.
How long does a cruise stay on it?
I don't know. I know they've had 270 people on there from 21 different countries, and I know that in 6 months they lose about 20% of their bone density. So they don't really want them. They don't really want them staying up there much longer than 6 months at a time. When they come back, they have to treat them like osteoporosis patients until they recover, and I don't think they ever fully recover.
stay about 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's about the limit before you... They've tried several different techniques. The problem is the lack of gravity. Your body only allocates resources to what it needs. And in the lack of gravity, you don't need your bones to hold you up. And so your body doesn't allocate as many resources to your skeletal system.
Now, I wonder that. Great question, why would anyone want to go there and come back sick? I guess the experience, the curiosity.
Humans have always been travelers, have always been explorers. We always have that curiosity. It's one of the innate features of humanity that we always want to know what's over the next hedge. We always want to know what's over the next bridge. That is a undeniable human trait.
I don't know how they grow the bone back.
How they grow the bone back? You know, I'm curious about that as well, because when they come back, you know, it's like their body says, "Oh, we're using these again. Okay, well, let's just do that then." And I don't think that's the case. I agree with you. I don't think the body just does that. I think they have to encourage it somehow.
You know, if it did just grow itself back, then all of us with osteoporosis wouldn't have to take the medication or do anything. It would just grow back.
Well, except the people with osteoporosis have a disease that causes it to not have a bone disorder that causes it to not grow back. These guys don't have a bone disorder. They don't have any kind of, there's not any kind of functional thing wrong with their bones. It's just they didn't need it. It's like when you lose a tooth, if you don't do anything about the missing tooth, your bone density your bone underneath your gum line will go away. Your body will absorb that bone back into the system because you're not using it. But if you catch it in time, you can grow that back. If you catch it in time, you can stop it. But I don't know that it comes back. You know, for all I know, they're just weak for the rest of their lives.
It stinks, I can tell you that.
That's an interesting question to ask, though. Does it grow back? Is there a way to encourage it to grow back? It's 100% powered by solar. That's what these big black things are around the edge, is solar panels. And it has motors on board to keep the whole thing oriented to the sun so that the solar panels are always in the sun. It produces enough electricity every hour to power 40 houses. The space station portion of it itself is only about the size of a 6-bedroom house, with about between 13 and 14,000 cubic feet of living living in workable space. Do.
In one study, it found that after 4 years, one astronaut recovered full recovery of bone loss, but another one had persistent deficits. So you don't know.
The one guy was probably on a carnivore diet, and the other one was probably vegan. My luck, you'd have to go vegan to get your bones back, and I would never ever get my bones back.
Something. One of the ways that people with osteoporosis jar their bones is they do an exercise where they land hard on their heels, and that jars the bones in your body. I wonder if they could put some sort of something in their boots to make it operate very so often.
I don't know, because they tried things on the space station where they. No, that's not what I wanted. They tried stuff on the space station where they have they strap them down to a treadmill and pull them hard against the treadmill. They do weight training with bands because they can't. Of course, they can't use actual weights, so they use bands. And so they've tried several different techniques to. They've tried several different techniques to compress the bones and make them feel the effects of an artificial gravity, because they don't have anything like artificial gravity. The movies will have you believe they have artificial gravity. There's a recent movie just came out, Project Hail Mary, and that was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed the movie. The science in the movie is a little wacky, but we're not here to be scientifically accurate. We're here to be entertained. And once you get past that, it's like Star Wars. People talk about the science and functionality of Star Wars, and we're talking about a movie about space wizards with laser swords that can cut through anything except another laser sword.
They learned that 30 seconds of circular motion and pressure causes 6 hours of bone growth.
You're a lucky man, Rick. I'm just going to say that. Yeah. What did Pamela say? I'm sorry. In massage therapy, we learned that 30 seconds of circular motion and pressure causes 6 hours of bone growth.
No.
What? This is the morning show. This is my favorite part of the process. I probably never told you guys that this is my favorite part of the process. This is the part to me that makes the whole thing come together and turns it from lines on a page into a dimensional drawing. Gives the whole thing shape. I probably never told you all that.
Not that I did any of that massage, that's a pipe dream.
I took a massage therapy class years ago, and my wife makes the same complaint that Rick makes. I don't ever get any of that. That's because she's afraid. She doubts my intentions when I offer her a massage.
Ivy says you saw your sea turtle. I'm never not going to dishwasher you as a sea turtle saying that now. Bring it back to me up.
This is my favorite part. Did you see it, Mom? That thing is cute.
Yes, it is cute. There's a lot to this guy.
It really is. It really is. It's more than just what you think is there. But it's a good thing it's Sunday. I don't have anywhere to be, except maybe to go get a donut afterwards. And I don't know if I'm going to do that today.
Rick says it's a very hard job to perform. I'm going to get that in our business for a couple of years.
As a massage therapist, you know, it was never my intention to be a professional masseuse. Initially I took it with the idea of being a masseuse, and then it turned into a way to impress the ladies. I was a newly single young man.
Ivy says sometimes Ivy should not be given free reign of AI.
Nah, you're doing fine.
We have to have fun in life or you won't make it.
Yeah, I was a newly single young man, and I thought that first I thought I was going to be a masseuse, and then I thought, there is a much better, not nearly as noble use for this. Let me dry this real quick. We'll talk more on the other side. I mentioned that it was solar powered. Did I mention that they had 8 miles of wiring? There's 8 miles of copper wire on this thing to handle all of the solar and to handle all the solar and science equipment. And they're going to crash it in 2030. But in the meantime, there are other companies like Axiom Space, Blue Origin, and this is my favorite. There's a company called Voyager Space that is building a star lab. Now, Voyager and Star Lab instead of Skylab. Voyager from Star Trek, from the original Voyager thing, but you know, having grown up around those things, that's an amalgamation of several different space icons just for a 70s kid. Vermilion! I didn't really mean to flood that. I don't know why that flooded like that. Can't talk, Arting. Do. Yeah, I would imagine that all of the private industry sets are going to be retrievable. I bet they build it in a modular fashion that allows for each individual piece to be retrieved. And I am slightly appalled that our government didn't come up with that idea first. But again, governments are not known for controlling waste and spending. That's not what governments do.
Except between being a hairstylist and carpenter, and a looking guy in the suits, his hands are crumbled these days.
I bet.
We can tell that Nikolai is feeling better because she said there's more about in this public than his hands. Oh, my dog is playing. 5 o'clock in the morning.
We're about done. I'm just putting these little striations on the solar panels. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're way past time. This would not have passed our 30-minute mark, our 30-minute test. But we're having a good time. It's not a failure, it just didn't pass the test. Yeah, the goal is to do it in 30 minutes or less. Do. All right, let me dry that and then we'll ink it. See where that blue flooded my I don't feel like my shiny steel lost some of its shine. But I don't think my electric eraser is small enough to get in there, so I think we're just going to have to deal with it. Let me ink this real quick. Do. Everybody holding their breath.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. See how important those greeblies are? I may have. Go ahead.
He says her eyeballs look forward to seeing the backs of her eyelids after this.
Yeah. I may have to come back in with some acrylic to bring some of those highlights back out. It's Sunday. It's Sunday. I can do that. Durf! It's a space station. It's not a moon. Durfanica Fred Bear. Forgive me if I've totally jacked up your name. The print on my screen is very small in that window. It is the International Space Station. Yeah, I may have to come back with some acrylic to bring some of those highlights back out. I tried gouache, but the only gouache I have available to me right this second is already dried, and you can reactivate it because it's water-based. But I find that reactivated gouache never quite works the same way. But I have the acrylic paint right here. And I just want a few highlights across here. Just on the shiny metallic parts. I had them all there, and then when I came back with the blue flooded. And it took away my highlights. Now, it's not like the blue just jumped out there and flooded itself. I did it. I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim of my paints. But I think that was the finishing touch. What is today? We went almost an hour today. That was way too long. It's a good thing I don't have to work today. Today is the 10th of May. So there is my space station compared to the photograph. Let me show it to you. Compared to from my perspective. There it is from my perspective. So that's what I did today. Thanks, Ivy. That's what I did today. Tomorrow, Pamela, thank you very much. Tomorrow, what do we have tomorrow? What could it be? What could it possibly be tomorrow? Oh my goodness. What could it be? Oh my goodness. Ivy, you're going to want to be here for this one. It's a sunflower. We're going to talk about how sunflowers grow faster on the east side during the day and faster on the west side at night, and so that it appears as if they are tracking the sun, but they are not. They just coil, and their coil matches the Earth's rotation. We'll talk about that and more fun sunflower facts tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. Texas time, while I sketch this little Ivy replica. Ivy, because Ivy's got a sunflower as her. Anyway, tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. Texas time. So we do this every day at 5:30 a.m. Texas time. So be sure and set your notification bell so you don't miss that. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. Even though we ran a little bit long today, I appreciate you being here and I appreciate the camaraderie. I hope you didn't mind me teasing you just a little bit. Guys, thank you so much. This is my favorite part of the day. I look forward to it every day. Be sure and tune in tomorrow. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. There we go. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel. Ivy, Rick, Pamela, Adele, thank you so much for joining me. Durf, thank you so much for joining me. Did I miss anybody?
Yeah.
Diablo Girl. Adele wasn't here. It was Diablo Girl. I'm sorry, Diablo Girl. I haven't seen your name in a little while. So I had to use my goldfish memory. But thank you so much for joining me. We're going to dance until somebody says they see me dancing so that I know that the lag has caught up to the stream. It gives you a chance to click the clicky thingies on the horizontal this way and on the vertical this way. It gives everybody a chance to say